Welcome to the Local
724 podcast.
in 3, 2, 1.
All right, Adam Fitz in the house. How are you doing, man? Doing awesome, man. I'm glad you could come in. Heck yeah. Dude, so you've got the musician thing going on. You're working at the Cultural Trust. Let's hear about your journey from where you started to where we're at now.
Oh, yeah, man, thanks. So I'm originally from Chicago, born and raised in Chicago, and I met a girl from Unity Township. So, Latrobe School District, Greensburg address, and now I live in Greensburg. So, but yeah, I met my wife, Megan, in Chicago. She lived there for about 15 years. Had the kids, the house. Once we had our second kid, we were like, retreat to the highlands.
Right.
So we came here close to her family. And I've been a school teacher and a musician. So when I came here, I did a year over at Latrobe High School. I was just an aide, and then got a job teaching in Pittsburgh at a charter school. I was teaching kindergarten down there. And then started working up here at Aquinas Academy last year. And all the while we were here, I started playing music more. So in Chicago, I had a band. In 2005 to 9, we'd play maybe like 30 shows a year. By the time I went back to school in 2009, 10, I was playing maybe twice a year. It was, I called it music on life support.
Right.
Just don't let it die. Keep it alive. Because it's so hard to start that back up if you take it all the way down.
Right. Yeah.
So I'd play like 2, maybe 3 solo acoustic shows a year, and then when we moved here, part of going back to school was having the ability to play more music. Like I get some summer times and stuff. But I never really got to put that in action. I was a school teacher in Chicago Public Schools for 3 years there. And then when I got here, I was like, all right, now's the time.
Yeah.
And so I went out and I met some amazing people. There's a guy local, Derek Woods, and he would host an open mic down at Black Rock. Across from the Sonic in Greengate.
Yeah.
So, I met him, by chance. I was down here in White Rabbit, and I went downstairs looking for records and met a guy down there. And there were some Dasher paintings on the wall.
Yep.
I was like, oh, those are cool. And he was like, that's a guy Dasher. And then I started following him on Facebook. And then he was like bartending where there was an open mic. And so I I just used Facebook. I had little kids, so I couldn't really go out.
Networking.
And so I just used Facebook as research. And I was like, all right, that's the bartender who's hosting the open mic, and reach out to them. It's like, oh, here's some other cool places. People who are really happy to share the culture and community. It's small enough where man, we need all of us doing everything we can do.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that.
I feel like even Pittsburgh has that, with about 1 million people, it still has that feeling. But I feel like even more so in Westmoreland County. There's 300,000 of us here in the county. So
Something
it's we need everybody doing as much as we can. And so basically I met Derek, and at that same open mic, I probably met 8 other musicians that I'm still friends with that are still active. And then I started following them. And I was like, all right, he's playing at these places. So now I'm on those sites, And then people are like, oh, you got to get a PA if you're going to go do it. So I basically put together a book of about 3 hours worth of covers. I still have my original music, and I just got busy. So 2017, I played about 60 shows.
Whoa. Same
thing about 2018. And then 2019, I thought I was going to take a step back, but at the end of the year, I looked back, it's about 90 shows.
Yeah, that never happens.
Yeah. I was like, I think I played less. And I looked at my spreadsheet. I was like, no, or 90.
Yeah.
So 2019, I played 90 shows. And that was the most, I put in more stage time playing. I would do the club cafes and the Mr. Smalls, but then I'd also go and do the, Mr. Toads for 3 hours, or Spitfire, all those sort of local haunts, and playing songs that I thought people wanted to hear. And so I would do those 3-hour sets. I definitely I played more shows since I've been in Greensburg than I had my whole life previous.
Yeah.
If you added them all, I probably doubled it.
That's awesome.
Quite honestly. And I attribute that to just the welcoming scene here. And there's a lot of support around local music, a lot of support from businesses that are giving work to these local musicians. And hopefully the musicians are giving it back to these restaurants and bars and things.
Mm-hmm. Dude, yeah, there was, I know when I was growing up, there was this there was a huge scene here. I mean, insane. I mean, there's still some guys around here that, pretty big names around here in music. But back in the day, we had the Juliana Theory around here, Zao. I mean, those guys are still around. Tons of big bands from this area. And I don't know if you've ever heard of like the Derry Theater.
No.
So out in Derry, there was this building. I don't really know what it was, but they converted it into a venue. And man, I've seen crazy amounts of shows there. Like At the Drive-In was there.
Oh, wow.
All kinds of things. And it seemed like Latrobe and Derry and Greensburg were like this triad of just amazing. Like, I don't know how we got the bands here that
how did they come here?
Yeah.
Like, I could see them stopping in Pittsburgh, but how did they end up here? Like, was there a promoter or somebody? What was... Usually
we
you
had
can
a
trace
bunch.
that back to, like, one or two or a couple people. Like, in Chicago, even as huge of a city it was, I grew up in the 90s and, like, the punk and ska scene that was really big. And I know a lot of those same people came through here. But... usually you could track it back to either like a venue or oftentimes like 2 or 3 people, individuals that are saying that they're the people attracting, actually bringing the talent in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were a few guys out here that were doing like some promoting and stuff. One good friend of mine, his name is Tom McKee. He did, I think he called himself Westmoreland Productions.
Nice.
But he was like he was only a year older than me, and like we're in high school and stuff, and I'm in a band, like I'm in a punk band and stuff, and we're having fun doing all that stuff. But Tom, he really wanted to be kind of the guy that was organizing all that stuff, and he recently, I think he moved out to Allentown, PA, but he did a lot of stuff for the local scene around here, and then there were a few other guys that were like bringing in bigger acts too, but it was just like, it was amazing. And like when I say we saw At the Drive-In, like they were here like 5 or 6 times.
Oh yeah, once you were on their route, it's like, oh, we'll stop. They already had a relationship. Yeah. And a lot of times that DIY scene, once you have a relationship with someone and they didn't burn you, you're like, I'll come back. How many people are gonna be there? Yeah. And then
dude, it was wild, man. I know like the Plain White Tees played at
they're from Chicago.
Yeah. Skate park down in Latrobe. Who else? There was just huge bands that were like rolling through here, and I just like I think now we were spoiled because I was just like, oh man, like there's just
this
all
must
these
happen out in like outside of Topeka too, right? It's
right,
when you realize that like there's something special happening, and to me that comes from the individuals. Like I think one of the reasons when I grew up in the 90s, there was a venue in the southwest suburbs called Off the Alley, and there was a record shop in the front, and then if you went around the back, there was a venue, probably held maybe 150, 200 people. Nice. But they would do all-age punk, ska show, and that Smoking Popes play out there. They're a Chicago band, the Tossers, things like that like not everybody knows, but the people who know know you know what I mean? But it boiled down to like, I believe that one of the reasons I started a band was because I knew where to go. Right, like I knew if I start a band, I can play there. Where like there's a disconnect if you're in high school and all you have is the bar scene. That disconnect between 18 and 21, it's so hard to track those 4 years of where you're going to play unless they're all. So that's why I think it was a huge hit to the area when Keynote closed, because I feel like I see this wealth, this huge balloon of talent coming from this area, coming from an outsider. As an outsider, being like, I didn't expect too much. Quite honestly, going from, Chicago's 5 million people to even Pittsburgh's a million. Right. And then here, like we said, 300,000. Like I didn't expect that much. Yeah. And I got here and I was just blown away by both the scale and the quality of the talent here. And I do believe that part of that is because, obviously there's like really great theater and music programs in all these high schools. So that there's a testament to that. Yeah. But I think seeing somebody like Aubrey Burchell, if you know her, she was an American Idol contestant a couple of years ago. She just graduated high school, but she would her and her dad play out together as a duo, and they play 150, 200 shows a year. Wow. Working.
That's like awesome.
They're working hard. And when I look at that, without the infrastructure of a place like the Keynote to nurture that talent and then provide a place that you can go play in those years, I think there starts to be a void.
Oh yeah.
And then you don't have those, it doesn't attract more national things.
Yeah. We were real lucky back then. We had some like skate parks and, different places. There was an under 18 club that was here also. And that was, I think they called it Planet Bubba's or something. First it was called Illusions. And Illusions was like the cool place to be. Like that's where all the bands played. We had some like Christian hardcore bands and stuff. Back in the day, it was like Pensive was around here, and some of the guys from Zao were in Pensive. Some of the Juliana Theory guys were in Pensive. All kinds of different bands, and they all kind of started there in the Dairy Theater, and then started working their way out. And so there really was an idea. There was a route for like us, like as young kids, to say like, oh, well, we could definitely play the skate park. Or, hey, we could definitely, get a show at the Dairy Theater or something like that, because it was welcoming to all ages.
You had something to aim at.
Yeah.
You weren't aiming at, New York City.
Right.
You weren't aiming at CBGBs.
Right, yeah.
You were aiming at, there was something, and I, in the late 90s, there was a kind of a boom of a lot of those like skate punk bands and kind of like pre-emo-y punk bands, pop punk bands. A lot of them got gobbled up. Like there was a couple bands from Chicago that got signed to Maverick Records, thanks to the guy from Goldfinger. Like A&R found him, and like he had like an imprint on Maverick. And honestly, like I never believed that was a reality until I saw people that I knew or had access to that got that path.
Yep.
And I think that path is so crucial. Now there's 360 degrees of paths.
Yeah.
One person puts out a YouTube cover that goes viral, somebody else slogs away for 20 years, and there's because of all of this technology that's consumer grade. Yeah. At this point, if you are even vaguely talented but determined, there's an outlet. There's a way. There's a path that through consistency and persistence you could get there.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, consistency, access. You just have access to pretty much anything. Like you said, I mean, with YouTube, even Facebook, you've got Across Westmoreland, something like that. You do like a really cool cover of a band that's playing at the Palace or something every week or whatever. Whoever's coming into town, dude, time that, play your cover, throw it up on there. That's just like how to stay current. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There's so many different tricks and tips and stuff like that YouTubers put out, or any kind of like the social media gurus put out and stuff. And you can take that information and apply it to pretty much anything.
I mean, here you are.
Yep.
Here we are. The focus on local, a podcast focused on local, hyper local, like what, there was a void. Yeah. Somebody needed to do this. I'm glad you did, Jordan. Like
me too, man. Me too.
And I'm sure you're starting to see the payoff, because I'm sure the first couple people you kind of had to be like, "Come on, would you do this?" And now you're probably turning people away.
There's definitely now a sense of, I want to make sure that everybody is a good fit for the show, and that I'm a good fit for them, for their business or how they want to talk about it. And it's just like, this is such a nice, easy, organic conversation. I don't want it to kind of be like, hey, on Sunday, come down to blah, blah, blah and buy this car.
That's the difference between marketing and advertising.
Absolutely, yeah.
So marketing is a long slog and it's hard to track. Where advertising is like, use this promo code and we can see how many people and how much money we made off of this spend.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
And it's hard to justify that marketing spend because it's hard to quantify it.
Yeah.
So I get that. But I believe, so basically once I got here and I started seeing all the talent and I started gigging out a bunch, I started seeing all these people that I was like, I want to hang with those people. Like, and being in like a band, you would book a show with 3 bands on the bill, and you'd like, there'd be this collaborative nature of it. And when you're playing solo acoustic in the bars, none of your friends who are bands are coming to your show because they're playing their own gig.
Right.
And if they're off that night, probably the last thing they want to do is go sit in the bar and hear more music,
Right. Yeah.
And no slight on anybody. It's just like, that's just the way
it's the nature of the beast.
It is the nature of the beast. It really is. And so I was like, man, how do I get access to collaborate with some of these people in a way that is beneficial to both of us? And so I launched this web series on my phone. I use my iPhone, called For a Song. And I'd reach out to people and I'd say, hey, will you spend an hour with me? Let me tell me a song you want to play. I'll learn it. We'll play it together. And then I'll interview you about it.
That's awesome.
How'd you write the song? Why'd you pick this song? So I sat down with one of my early ones was Josh Corcoran, who is he plays out under the name Josh Jams, and he does Spare Change, which is a nonprofit that helps connect musicians with other nonprofits. And so they have a Musicians Impact Network now, and different musicians are out there playing, and they have a tip bucket, and they're like, hey, throw some money in, and I'll donate it to this nonprofit. And so Josh was an early person on the Forest song, and we played a Neil Young song, and it was his parents' wedding song. So that was like, he's like, we played the song, and I was like, I don't want to talk about it at all. Like, we get there, it's nice to see you. Let's practice the song. About the third time, like, all right, let's record one. We play it, we do 3 or 4 until we're both happy. None of them are going to be perfect.
Right, yeah.
But it's like, there's no editing. It's just like,
that's awesome.
that's the one. Like, and then I interview him about it, and I try not to get anything beforehand because that's the good stuff. Yeah. We visited a little bit before this. And
right, yeah.
We might have missed some good stuff there.
We're gonna bring that back up. It always seems like, the pre-conversation before we hit the record button is always the stuff that it's like, yep, okay, hold on a second. Hold on to that.
Yeah, stop. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man. I think it's just like, it's real important to like get the stories from people, like how you even got into music, or how, like, what was your motivation really to even pick up a guitar ever? Like, what prompted you to do that?
My parents were huge music fans. So like, I grew up, my dad had 1,000 records, and there was songwriters, Joni Mitchell, John Prine. John Prine was like the guy in my house, and he just had all that, the Beatles records. He had all this music, and they would listen to it. It was just part of our life. And they didn't play, but they were just huge fans. Yeah. And so I got into songs, and I I want to be able to write John Prine songs, not knowing how deceptively simple they are. Simple and easy. They're not simple. They're easy to play, right? But they're very complex. The sum of the parts. And so I was like, I want to be John Prine. If I can learn 4 chords, I thought I could do that. Yeah. And when you unpack it, you're like, well, no, that's special. Yeah. But, that you have something to shoot at. And then when you fall short, it sounds like you. Ideally. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like, there's, I think, a whole different vibe, between idolizing something and, copying it, obviously. You got your idols, the people you look up to, and your inspiration, things like that. But that's just like, I think that kind of goes hand in hand with almost anything that we do. Like, any kind of, say you're an aggressive skateboarder, you might be, oh man, you skate a lot like, XYZ or blah, blah, blah. But, as far as like just picking up a guitar and stuff, and like, there's so many different inspirational people out there that are just like still so current. To like young kids.
That's also why we have school. Yeah. That's why we have mentors. Yep. And that goes right back to what we were talking about. Like, you need to see the path. I didn't think that being signed to a label was a reality until I saw people I knew from where I was from have access to it. Yep. I'm like, oh, it's possible. Oh, yeah. Because otherwise it's, I feel like a lot of people like to look at the exception and call it the rule. Yep. Say like, oh no, if you do this long enough, and it's like, no, that's the exception. Like, we want to, Yeah. But I love having a path, and it doesn't mean that's the only path. Right. It means like, hey, I see how this person did this, and I can follow her steps. Right. And it'll get me to a point where then that path might end, and then I might need to follow somebody else's steps. Yep. So, but yeah, I think that the example and the paths are crucial.
Absolutely.
You don't know, and
yeah, you don't know where you're going to end up. I mean, like, to be honest, when I was a kid, I didn't realize that I was going to be into any of this. Like 2 years ago, I didn't think I would be into any of this. It was, everybody always asked me, they're like, man, how long you been podcasting? And I'm like, what episode is this? Right. 27? 27 episodes. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, it's just like, I got into YouTube and I used YouTube as kind of an outlet, my creative outlet to, get my mind right about creating things outside of a corporate environment. And, so that was me sitting there talking to a camera, a lens, and I'm just like staring at it and talking to it. And I'm like, I finally eventually learned how to talk to this camera as if I was talking to a person.
Right.
And, you transcend the whole camera and think audience, and you're like, oh, okay, so I can do that. And then when I shifted into this and I had people to talk to, I was like, oh, I'm much more comfortable talking to people now. Like, that helped me tremendously.
Yeah. So you had a YouTube channel?
I still do. It is one of those things I was gonna say earlier, but it's one of those things that I'm trying not to let die. So I do like a few episodes here and there. I was going hard. I was doing like 3 episodes a week.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun.
You're doing like video tutorials and
Yeah, basically just like how to edit or how to shoot something in a specific style, or if you want to master your audio in a video, how to make it sound a little bit better.
Yeah.
And I think beginners mainly really are attracted to my channel because there's a group of people out there that try to teach the stuff that people at that level already know. And it's like, okay, I understand, if you're super technical and, maybe After Effects, let's talk about that for a second. So like you're super technical and you want to do all this stuff. Maybe you're just like, oh yeah, okay, cool. I'll watch that video and get some good motivation. But to a beginner, they're like, what the hell is After Effects?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? So like, I just want people to feel comfortable picking up a camera and figuring out how to work it. And just say like, I could put this thing on auto, and whenever I go outside, it's gonna get darker and everything's gonna look okay. And when I go in, it's gonna brighten up and everything's gonna look okay. Great. What if I put it in manual? What does that do? Then it's like, okay, well then you can control things, differently.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I think it's a lot of fun. I think that really helped just kind of get me into this area, and it definitely helped me start my video business. Like that gave me the kind of almost the way to kind of talk to clients. That really like helped me with my speaking. I think was.
Do you find that like, so as a teacher, I would often have to wear 2 hats. So I would have to 2 or 3. I'd have to be able to like teach kids and engage them in a certain way. But then when I sat in a teacher's meeting or a staff meeting with my administrators or went for an observation, I had to bring a whole different lexicon of justification. And if I dropped that on my kids, they wouldn't get it, or even on the parents. So there was like, you have to kind of speak to your audience. So do you find that like that helped you by speaking to beginners, that helped you talk to people who wanted to get into video but didn't necessarily, you weren't talking about After Effects with them. You were no, the light's going to be great.
Yeah.
You break it. It gave you the vocabulary and the comfort to break it down.
Yeah.
For the civilian, basically.
Yeah. I mean, like that was kind of YouTube. Like when I started, I was doing this like, I was vlogging. That was like a big thing. I was doing some vlogging. And then I was like, okay, let's do camera tutorials. So like I still had this giant umbrella. And then I just kept focusing down and niching down and niching down and niching down. And then that's where I found, beginner. Stay there. Stay in that realm. And everybody really likes that. The subscribers that I do have, they're just like, they're like friends of mine. Yeah. They reach out to me all the time. We talk back and forth. We jump on video, like live shows together or stuff and talk about stuff. And for this, whenever I started thinking about like the podcast, I'm like, well, I want to do one. I'm not sure what I want to do it about, or I was trying to like kind of tailor the idea of the show. And then again, kept niching down. And I was like, man, local. I have to get all these people, because that's what I wanted to do, was like tell stories, but I have access to everybody here. Yeah. And it's amazing. And everybody's so nice and wants to be a part of it. And everybody is so like, it's such a small world.
Man, you're going to find...
Everybody knows everybody.
I think this is going to resonate with you, because I was talking about for a song, and when I would sing a song with somebody that's their own original, and I would ask them about a lyric, like, because I'm obviously I said John Pryan's a big influence, so I love the lyrical aspect of songwriting.
Yeah.
And so I would ask them about like, oh, why'd you choose this word? Or I love this sequence or what, and it would trip them up often because they're like, no one's ever asked me
Right.
about my lyrics. Like no one's ever fine-tooth combed them or give, and I'd be willing to wager that resonates with you because I'm sure there's a lot of people that sit in this chair that are like, well, no one's ever asked me about that, but
Right, yeah.
because you'd be lucky to get on a major network to be interviewed or even be interviewed for the Uniontown Post or the Trib or something like. But to be in a granular way and have access to media,
Yeah.
I think is new to a lot of people.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's definitely like, I have people that are like, why do you want to talk to me? Like and I'm just like, because I think it's really neat. Like I see your business. I see a lot of people that I have interviewed or people that I do know, who are talking about your business and people are always mentioning your business and things like that. And like me and you, like we just kind of like found each other through social media and it was like, I was like, oh man, he's an awesome musician. And then I'm like, oh, he's a photographer too. He shoots. This guy's awesome. And then all of a sudden you're working at the Cultural Trust and we're talking. And man, it was just like, I've got to meet this guy. Like I have to. It's been too long.
I do appreciate having me,
dude. Yeah, I mean, like we've been talking back and forth for quite a while at this point.
I think I watched the first or second episode. I was like, because that's one of the things I try to do is I try to notice what's happening.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, like, because I'm like, the thing that we're doing to the Trust right now that we've been doing over the lockdown is curating daily videos from their house their house to our stage, and that's just me going on Facebook and being like, oh, that musician from Greensburg or Latrobe or Pittsburgh from the south. I'm kind of southwestern PA. You know, like I kind of look at that and I'm like, oh, that musician just is doing a live stream on Saturday. That one did it last week. And then I reach out and I'm like, hey, can I share a song? Like, can we share one? And they're like, cool. So I'm like, I'm already curious. Yeah. So adding that to what I've been doing with the Trust has been just natural. I'm like, yes, I'm doing that already. And to have the ability to highlight and amplify anybody's message in the arts, for me, that's why I started For a Song. It was to do that. And so that's why when this position became available, I reached out and I was like, I'd love to be involved because it was just a bigger megaphone.
Absolutely.
How can I take my 100 followers and transfer that to, an organization that has 10,000 followers?
Yeah, absolutely. Dude, I think that they absolutely picked the best person for this job. Like, it's seriously, it's like, I love Kelly. Kelly Brisbane is like the shit. Like, she's literally like, if you think of somebody like, man, that's the type of friend I want to have, that's Kelly. She's awesome.
I was really sad when I heard that she wasn't there anymore, but I knew someone had to be there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who could have done a great job, but I knew that if I didn't put my hat in the ring, I couldn't complain about who was at or how something was run.
Yep.
If I had the option to have a seat at the table.
Yeah.
And if I didn't get it, that's fine because I would have faith that somebody would do a great job in following some of the things that she built and she helped the Trust expand. But to that's it. Like I plan on being here for the long haul. Yeah. And the Trust is doing some really important work, cultural work in Westmoreland County. And so
I mean, the Cultural Trust is amazing. Like I said before on this podcast, like I had no idea what it was. I didn't know that it existed. And then when I found out, I was like, whoa, these guys are doing a lot of awesome stuff. I mean, like the Music Fest, things like that. TGIS Music Series. You guys have some news about that?
Yeah, we're launching it. So we were afraid about it. We were afraid because we didn't know what was going to be happening. We were looking at potentially making it like a streaming thing. Yeah. Which the upstart on that is to do it at the right quality. the training and the equipment that's needed is pretty big, and we have a pretty small staff, and we've had to downsize a little bit even since the Palace is closed for right now. So there's a lot of people who are hungry to come back, and so TGIS we're moving it to the Greensburg Garden Civic Center. It used to be in the Palace Courtyard in Megan Suite. and it's not suited for the 200 people we typically would expect week to week. And so we're moving it to the lawn at Greensburg Garden Civic Center. Unfortunately, we have to cap it at 250 because of that's what we're working in the regulations right now.
Yeah.
So you can register online. This week's, I think, is sold out.
We
put it on yesterday. When I left the office, it was 2 tickets left.
Yeah.
So this week is basically sold out. We're going to put them up the Monday of every week. So if the show's on the Thursday, we're going to put it up on the Monday. Members get to register on Saturday. So if you want to make sure you're in there, if you're a member, you can be a member for as little as $50. We'd love to have you as a member. Once we get shows back going, you get pre-sale tickets. Once this palace is back up and running, we have a VIP lounge upstairs in Upper Megan Suite. So there are perks. But this is a funny year.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah, a little goofy.
It's a funny year. So, so we have it's going to be a 9-week series this year. It's a little bit abbreviated because we had to cancel some of the early ones. So we start this Thursday with Cash for Life, who is the Johnny Cash tribute band with some Pittsburgh musicians. We have the String Theory. We've got Andy and Natalie Gregg with their friend Jackson Gardner coming July 9th. Who else is in there? Let's see. Gary Pratt's July 16th. I think I skipped somebody in between there. Nope, Gary Pratt's July 16th. July 23rd is Hamilton Avenue. July 30th is the Bricks. We expect that to be a big one.
Yeah.
August 6th, we have, who is August 6th? The Woods Family Band. I mentioned Derek Woods earlier.
Yeah.
So it's Derek Woods and his father, Tim Woods, who's in the New York Blues Hall of Fame. The 13th, we're doing something special. Coming in to the trust, this has been happening. This has been going on for a long time, and there's a tradition and a culture there that I want to respect. But I also really want to bring new people into the fold because I think that's the way we grow things.
Absolutely.
We introduce new people, and people like the Bricks and Hamilton Avenue, String Theory. They've been doing these events for a long time, and we love having them, and they're critical to the history and the future of trust.
Absolutely.
But I'm trying to find a way to sample some things. So on the 13th, on the 13th of August, we're going to do Singers in the Round. So we're going to have 4 kind of a Nashville-style songwriters in the round, but it's going to be themed rounds. So there'll be 4 musicians on stage at the same time, and we're going to go, this is the Beatles round. And all 4 people, they each trade a Beatles song. And then we come back around and we go, this is a song you'd love to dance to. And then each person plays a song. We'll do that like 13 times through the night.
That's awesome.
Every 5 minutes, you're going to hear a new voice. Every 15 minutes, you're going to get to hear that voice again.
Man.
So I'm super excited about
That's
that.
That's awesome.
A guy out of Pittsburgh, Spencer Allen Patrick's going to be on that. Henry Pachorsky. He works up at Sendell Subaru and is a good buddy. He has a pretty big presence in the Pittsburgh music scene as well. Karen Dixon, who's originally from Greensburg. She lives out in State College now. And then there's one more to be announced on that one. So I'm super excited about that because it touches back to the songwriter part of me that has that, I don't know if you've ever seen or been a part of any of those songwriters in the round, but I just love them because you get that community. There's a back and forth in it. There's kind of a special sauce that happens.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about sitting across from somebody. There's a special stew that happens when you get those 4 people interacting with each other. So I'm super excited about that. And then the 20th, we're going to end out our season with East Coast Turnaround.
Nice.
So that's our season.
You guys are coming out hard and heavy. This is awesome. I'm real glad because when I reached out to you and asked you to come on the show, and then you were saying, oh my God, this is perfect timing with the TGIS coming back in. But I had no idea you guys had this much planned for this year, especially because
we did have to cancel the first 2
this year.
But it worked out because the people that we booked the first 2 actually had some pre-existing conditions, and they were like, we're not going out right now.
Yeah.
So they were going to cancel anyway, so it kind of worked out.
Yeah.
We're all staying safe. Everyone's kind of taking care of themselves and each other.
That's good. Man, that's awesome.
So
I can't believe it.
There are some safety regulations that we have in place for the community based on the CDC and Department of Health guidelines. We're doing our best to make everyone feel comfortable and welcomed.
Yep.
And there's some rules posted online on the Westmoreland Cultural Trust.
Cool. Yeah. So the things that you guys obviously have to do different because of 2020 problems, we're doing you're capping it at 250.
Yes.
Okay. And then you still got some, because we're going to be on the lawn, the big lawn and stuff like that. So you guys have, you're able to social distance and
we're
keep
basically
people.
spray painting out pods.
Okay.
And there'd be 4 people per pod.
Nice.
Bring your own chairs.
Yeah.
We're unable to provide seating.
Yeah.
Just for safety and the volume of what we have. We don't want to play preference to anybody. So, like Summer Sounds, it's bring your own chair or blanket, however you want to do it. Unlike Summer Sounds, you cannot bring outside liquor or food in.
Right.
We will have Elegant Catering food truck there every week. We'll have a cash bar.
Nice.
Our friend Dasher is going to be working.
Good stuff. That's great.
Yeah, and we're excited about the season. We want people to come out, feel welcomed, have fun. I think that, because so many things this year got canceled, we felt it was even more important for us to provide the cultural value that's expected.
Yeah.
The Heritage Fest got canceled. I think Greensburg Community Days was canceled. Summer Sounds was canceled. So, and then we're going to assess the year. Right now, Music Fest hangs in the balance. It's going to be hard to regulate such a large event. Last year, I think they had like 10 stages. Yeah. So, we don't know what's going to happen. We're looking to try to do something in the early fall.
Yeah.
But we have to see how this goes and where the regulations go.
Yeah. So I was about to ask about that.
I have nothing to divulge on that because we're going to see how TGIS goes. We're going to look at how the regulations might increase or decrease, and then we'll make something happen later.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like everything that's pushed out, September-ish area out there, that time frame seems to still be hanging in the balance and things. There's so many things that we were supposed to go to this summer got canceled.
Yeah.
Me and my wife were just like, oh, really? Like we had a cruise that just got canceled like 2 days ago. And it wasn't even surprising. We literally were just like,
do you want to be on a cruise right now?
See,
though?
that's
the
thing.
question. Like you have to ask yourself.
Yeah. That's what I told her. I said, like, look, I'm cool with that because I'm cool right now. My personal regulations, let's call it that, are allowing me to, it's getting nice and easy every single week. I'm kind of just like getting more into, being in not crowded spaces, but in spaces with people. And I was like, and these are people that we know.
Right.
I was like, I don't know if I want to be stuck out in the ocean with just a boatload of people, like a literal boatload of people that we just don't know. And that was
all over the country.
Exactly. All over the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not very bummed about it. So we're taking all the money that we missed out on some of the events we were supposed to go to and vacations and stuff, and we're putting a pool in our backyard and stuff and just trying to staycations. Yeah. I told her yesterday, I just want to build like a giant fortress around our house and just kind of like stay there. Like, I think that's where we need to be at this point.
Yeah. And I don't fault anybody for any views on it, honestly.
Right, yeah.
Like I'm gonna try to err toward the conservative side on it. But but I have in-laws who are older, with little kids. I'm just like, the risk in it.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to call that bluff.
Yeah.
Personally, that's just me.
Yep. Man, I agree. It's like, it's a little, we talked about going out. We went to Jay Cork's last weekend. We wanted to sit outside.
Yes.
She asked me, she said, do you have a preference like inside, outside? And I was like, tell them outside. Yeah. Like I want to go out, but I'd rather be outside. We did Invisible Man last week also early in the afternoon. Myself and my wife and Jess Hickey were actually the only ones there. So that was nice and relaxing.
Did they have some bar stools removed? Like Could you tell that it was?
Oh yeah, yeah. So the tables, 2 of the tables are back in the kids area now. Those are spread out. There is no kids area now. But then the tables out are all spread very far, like over 6 feet, which is good. There's one table outside on the sidewalk. You can chill and have a beer out there. And then groups of 4. bar stools, and then there's a big 6-foot gap in the front of the bar,
Right.
and then 4 more bar.
Yeah, we did
stools.
breakfast at Sundog last weekend, and it was good. They removed some tables.
Yeah.
And,
God, I love that place.
yeah, so good.
Ugh.
So good. We were waiting for that. We've been waiting for 3 months to go back to Sundog for breakfast.
Good Lord. It's amazing, man. We ordered from there a couple times during the
We did too.
during the whole
The
shutdown
curbside,
thing.
you just pull out and back, put your flashers on. I love that.
So awesome.
And we were at Parkwood a bunch. We
Oh,
went
yeah?
there. They took it serious.
Man, I always forget about Parkwood, but their pizza is like the bomb.
It's really
so
good.
good.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah.
My son's preschool teacher, her family owns it, so we like to.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's
Nice.
That's the best. It's the craziest thing about being here. I mean, I grew up in the South Side of Chicago, so there's
Oh,
pockets,
you're a South Side guy.
there's pockets of like everyone knows everybody. You might as well be anywhere. It's kind of small town vibes in the midst of this large metropolis. But here, man, it's like it's all so interconnected.
Oh, yeah.
I think we talked, and it was like, anytime I meet somebody, I'll go home and I'll ask my brother-in-law, like, hey, you know these guys? Like, what's the family name? Like, yeah, I think like, so-and-so went to school with them, or, it's all so interconnected, which I love. It's dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
You can't really be a jerk.
Right, yeah.
Reputations are a thing, and
Absolutely.
and they seem to last generationally, but I love it. I love seeing the way the community works.
Yeah. Dude, I really appreciate how you kind of reach out to people and like try to get to know people and stuff like that. Like, especially, being a transplant into this area and things. Like, I was talking with my buddy Brian Henry. You follow him on Instagram, I think.
Yeah, he's a photographer.
Yeah, you shared one of his photos one day, and I was just like flipping through, and I saw his photo on your story, and I was like, man, this is awesome. Like, it's so great. And then Brian, I mentioned you, and Brian was like, yeah, man. He was like, we've been just kind of like, flirting back and forth on each other's like pages and stuff, like liking each other's photos and stuff. And it was real cool. I told him, I was like, yeah, I said I'm getting him on soon. And so he was like real pumped to hear this episode.
He has this one amazing, and he's a lot of amazing photos, but there's the one out in Lynchfield when it's flooded and it's just all water and just you can see the top of the bench.
Yeah.
He's good.
He's got that eye, man. He just like, he's one of those guys that doesn't really post a whole ton
But
of
when
stuff.
he does, he's bringing it.
That's right. When he does, man, wow. When he does, man, it is something else. And you're just like, oh, okay. Yeah, all right. Yeah, it's real fun, man. Just to like, be surrounded by the talent and stuff, I think, that is in this town and the neighboring towns and stuff. I mean, Brian, he's a Latrobe boy too. We grew up across the street from each other. Like, I've known that kid since we were like 4 years old.
Oh, wow, okay.
So, yeah, it's
deep. The roots are deep.
Real deep. Yeah. So, like, I mean, it's real wild. Now, he just helped me move 2 truckloads full of patio stones yesterday.
That's a good friend.
He is a good friend, I'm telling you. Yeah. Oh, God. But, just, being in this area and having, people come in. I've talked to other transplants and stuff into this area, and them just saying, like, man, this is such a cool place to be. And, like, especially you coming from Chicago. I know when I was younger, living in Latrobe and everything closing at 5 o'clock, I was just like, man, this sucks. It's like, why is everything closing? Like, when I grow up, I want to live in Chicago. I want to live in New York. I want to live in L.A.
And in Cleveland, right? You're
right,
like,
yeah, anything that doesn't close at 5. And, I moved a couple times, and, man, I keep coming back. And at this point, I'm just like, this is my pride. I love this place.
Yeah.
It's just like, I get the biggest rush walking down, the street, whether it be Main Street or Pennsylvania Avenue or something, and just seeing people out visiting businesses and like patronizing businesses. That gives me like the biggest high.
Yeah, it's amazing, and seeing that life here, and having grown up. I grew up in neighborhoods in Chicago, but there was always action, and so now, we live out by the mall, and we're in the suburb, but I can drive 5 minutes and see a cow.
Yep.
And I can drive 10 minutes and feel like I'm in a city. I mean, Greensburg is super urban,
Yeah.
So it's. I love having all 3 of those things.
Yep.
I liked working in Pittsburgh because I liked feeling like I had a longer leash a little bit, you know, just kind of a wider radius.
Were you teaching down there?
I was in outside of East Liberty.
Okay.
In Lincoln Larmer, there for 2 years. And I did like that, having access to Pittsburgh. And the more you take that drive, the shorter it is.
Yeah, that's
you know,
true.
when I don't go down there now as much.
Right.
It feels like I feel the slog of the commute. But when I was going there 5 days a week back and forth, I had no problem getting in my car at 8 o'clock on a Monday night to go to an open mic.
Oh yeah.
When I had the go card. So, but I do love I've loved the last year just being Greensburg centric.
Yeah.
I have.
It's real wild. It's a cool place. So, are you you're doing some shows in this area? You play a lot of Major Stokes, right?
I've played up Major Stokes, I think just once actually.
Only once?
I think I had another date that was supposed to be in May that obviously didn't happen. You know, Jordan, quite honestly, so when I was teaching and I was booking 90 shows in a year, part of it was a little extra income.
Yeah.
You know, and a big part of it, the bigger part of it was just that I had those muscles developed and I was just like hungry. And every time I'd see somebody else booking shows, I'm not competitive.
Yeah.
Right. Like I believe like if you knew about like the competitive nature of like the Beach Boys and the Beatles back in the 60s, like the Beach Boys would put out a record and the Beatles would be like, oh yeah, I hear you. And here's this one, you know, and there was like it was more of a conversation and everyone's trying to up their game. Yeah. And so like I would look at when I met Derek Woods and I was like, oh man, he's playing 230 shows a year. He works. That's his job. Yeah. That's what he does. He does it through multiple different bands. And I was just like, what's that number in my life?
Right.
You know, like how do I push myself as far as I can where I don't feel like I'm slacking? Mm-hmm. And so that ended up being about 60. And then that last year, 2019, 90, I was like,
yeah.
But then, so when this year started and I got hired part-time with the trust, knowing that I was going to scale up to full-time. And I basically was like, all right, so all those extra hours that I spent, because I was still teaching, and I needed to give that, I couldn't shortchange either organization. Sure. And so I basically was like, all right, I'm going to pause music stuff. So I, for a song, paused, and me actively seeking out shows, it's just dormant period. Yeah. And then I took those hours, those evening and weekend hours, and I dedicated them to Party at the Palace we worked on, Arts Walk, which unfortunately was canceled. And then we actually just did Achievement in the Arts Awards. So those are, I don't know if you're familiar with those, but the Westmoreland Cultural Trust for 22 years has been honoring high school seniors throughout Westmoreland County for excellence in visual arts, performance arts, theater performance, and vocal performance. And this year we were going to have to cancel them. And so we worked together and turned them into a video award show. That's awesome. So on the job, I learned the whole process from home, while teaching, figured out how to collect all the data, reach out to all the students, the teachers, the students, the parents. We ended up setting up Zoom meetings for all the different categories. We had Tony Marino from Stage Right presented a theater award. Joan McGarry from the museum presented the visual arts award. Susan Mahady, she's the business manager at Westmoreland Choral Society. She presented the vocals, and then Endicott Reindl from the symphony. He presented all the instrumental performance arts. We did that in Zoom meetings, individuals. I taped them all on my computer. And then there's a local guy, David Fedor. He edited it all together, and we also shot some B-roll at the Empty Palace. And so I was hosting, and it was the Empty Palace, and I was like, hey, guys, welcome to the awards. Like, dude, that's awesome. And so check it out. We're at there's like 3,000 views on Facebook. It's pretty, but it's a 35-minute award show that, the Trust had never done anything on that scale before. And I'm really proud of the work that happened. Dude, is it perfect?
That sounds awesome.
But the students still get honored? Yes. And so I'm really proud of that work. And then we switched right into TGIS, which we didn't know when we were going to go green. So we kind of had to, we turned that on pretty quick. Yeah, we had the season booked because, we never canceled it because we were always going to try to do something. But then once we got the green, we're like, okay, what are the regulations? How do we fix it? Move to the garden center. Let's go.
That's awesome.
So that's where we're at now.
Dude, really cool, man. Very awesome. I'm glad to hear that you guys are, really stepping up to the plate and going nuts on this because Dude, I mean, I think it's really awesome because like something like the awards and stuff like that, super important to like the kids and stuff because I mean, I can't even imagine what it's like to be ripped out of school, not
Senior year?
not see your friends, not graduate.
Right.
Just the craziest thing, you know, like I thought as this was going on, like I literally was just like sitting on my couch, like watching the TV day after day, like how can this get any weirder? And it just kept getting weirder and weirder. And I was just like, man, like this is like such, you know, it's just crazy, you know, to see. And I'm glad that you guys took, you know, the restrictions, you figured out what you could do, what you couldn't do. And, you know, were able to, you know, let these kids have their spotlight, you know?
Yeah. And like one thing I said to the awardees in the Zoom meetings was as much as this sucks, like as much as it just feels like you're losing stuff. Honestly, I believe this is their walk uphill both ways in the snow barefoot moment. Like in 2 years when their younger cousin's like, oh my God, can you believe they did? You'd be like, sit down. Let me tell you about 2020.
Right?
Let me tell you about the class of 2020. And so like I believe that adversity, while really unpleasant to go through, and I feel for all of the students and anyone whose lives were shaped, obviously health reasons or job or businesses, like very deeply. But for the kids who deserve these rites of passage, and to have those shaped by this moment, I really think that this adversity is a strength, turns into a strength in the long run.
For sure.
I think when you hit road bumps and you go like, well, it happens. We're not promised tomorrow. You know, like there's these things we expect that we might not get.
Right.
And so we, you know, force yourself to, and we talked before the mics were on about the forced evolution.
Yep.
The way that all of a sudden these businesses are like, time to get on Zoom.
Yeah.
Time to make some Facebook video content. You know, like they're just figuring it out because that was the only, it's either try something that's uncomfortable or squander in irrelevance.
Yeah.
You know, you just disappear. So it's like, well, try something.
You have to. I mean, like there were so many people that reached out to me, and I was so like thankful that people were reaching out to me, just for some advice on, you know, it would at least give me someone to talk to and stuff, you know, like during the middle of my day, like break up my day. I had, you know, like a church reach out to me, and they were just like, hey, how do you, here's my list of equipment. Here is the problem that we had on our first YouTube thing. Like, how can we make the next one better? And we just like went through and kind of like figured out, hey, maybe you have too many things going on at one time. Maybe like scale back a little bit. You could do it easier this way. And, you know, I had other people reaching out, you know, I want to take my business on the Facebook Live. How do I go about, you know, doing this? What's the best mic to work with my phone and things? And it was just like, you know, that YouTuber part of me that does the, you know, the tutorials and the reviews of different mics and things. I was just like, oh, hold on a second, I got you.
You get to send them a link.
Just like boom, there's the link.
Out,
and it was a lot of fun to see people making moves because like you really don't know how strong your entire community is until you're watching people just not be irrelevant. You know what I mean? Just like completely go full force and do what they have to do. Everybody, like all the brick and mortars and stuff, did the curbside and all that stuff. But, you know, businesses like mine or, you know, other people that have, say, like a yoga studio or something like that they couldn't, you know, have people in. They were able to go online and do things. Like I'm thankful for clients of mine that sent me, you know, videos that I've done already and just said like, hey, are you able to turn these into TV commercials for us? And then we were just like, okay, cool, boom. So I had
take old stock and how do you make this new?
Yeah, and you know, it was awesome. Everyone got through, and it's pretty nice to be kind of on the other side of this. I think it's nice, and to be honest, I mean, like I got to learn a lot about people, and you know, whether good or bad, I learned a lot about people, and I think it's a good thing. For sure. But, yeah, silver linings come from shitty situations.
I think
sometimes.
that's crucial, man. Yeah, I think it's crucial to have that mindset and to look for those positive things because there was and continues to be opportunity in this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and some people are going to go back to business as usual, cool.
Yeah.
And other people are going to come out with new tricks. You know?
yeah.
And so, I mean, like, I look at some of the teachers, and some of the teachers are going to be like, oh, God, so I think that's over. But others are going to be like, oh, there's this awesome community tool that we can use for this. You know, and like, it's a moment of growth. Like,
For sure. Absolutely.
any moment of turmoil is also an opportunity. And, you know, personally, I'm not one to try to wallow in anything or make anyone feel bad, but I think that, like, if you didn't learn a new skill, you know, like, you squandered a little bit of an opportunity. There was some time and need to try something new. And even if it didn't stick, if you didn't get great at it, it's just like experiment a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like I would call people or message them whenever I saw somebody post a piece of content. I'd be like, oh, that's awesome. Keep doing that. Or like, try some informational, you know, just from me consuming content and as a consumer and learning about how to create content. I'm like, you know, here's a resource. Try that, you know, like.
Yeah. I mean, there was a video that I did on YouTube, and I just said, you know, to those beginners out there, I was just like, look, if there was ever a time in the world to double down on your content and start making stuff, it's now.
Right now. Yeah.
This is, everyone's looking for stuff to watch. Everyone's looking for something different to do. You have the time. I mean, you can't possibly feel lazy when you're not allowed to do shit.
Right.
So it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I want to get good. I mean, like, I had.
Did anyone say to you, but there's so many people doing stuff now?
There were people that were
just
just
excuses
yeah.
like the signal of noise. It's like, yeah, but always signal.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like just
I mean,
always more stuff.
You have to. I mean, like, because you can do one of two things. You can make content, and maybe people will check it out. Maybe people won't. Or you can not make content, and people are definitely not going to know who you are at that point.
Right.
So it's just like, just try. You know, it's awesome. I tried, you know, to do this show. Like we said, when the mics were off from home, it was tough. It was hard. I mean, I kept trying. Each show I would get done, I'd hit the record button and stop everything and then hang up with my guest or whatever. And I would literally just sit there with like my head in my hands and be like, this thing's dead. It's dying. I'm watching it die.
Yeah.
Because like it was so hard to have a conversation with somebody and not see them. And I was like, is this how it is? Like when I'm talking on the phone with normal people, like, are we talking over each other?
Yeah,
are we
maybe,
like,
but this, like, that platform has been around for so long that we know how to interact on that.
yeah,
The video platform, we're trying to find the balance between in person and the phone, and we're learning. I mean, we're all relearning norms. I walk into Walgreens and I'm like, luckily there's a sign because I'm like, I just walk my regular path, but there's 2 lines full of people.
Right,
I'm like, oh no, wait, no, not there. This way, you know,
This,
like
yeah.
like just the muscle memory is so deep.
it really
that
is.
We need those reminders, and yeah, you know, it's funny talking about. I could talk a good game about wanting to create more content, and I did pretty well on my personal stuff, music, photography. I read poetry, I write haikus, and have fun.
I love the stuff you put out, man.
I try, but and I just like the idea of trial and error and try different stuff. And there's no cost of entry; it's my time.
Right. Yeah.
And if I'm making a meme or I'm watching a TV show, like I'm giving my time away either way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's like I could give my time in a way that's searchable. That you know that you and your friend Brian could say, hey, I know this guy because he's broadcasting, and even if it's not front facing to the camera, you know, because like I'm on TikTok, but I'm not good at those like front facing videos, or I don't want to say I'm not good. I haven't tried.
Yeah,
I don't feel comfortable going there yet, and I'm sure I will, because when you watch TikTok and its evolution, like you were saying, like I started my YouTube channel and got me to this, and every platform leads you to the next thing. There's going to be a residue of that, and you can see the residue of the Instagram stories going to TikTok, like just all culture at mass like that scales in a certain direction. And there's a reason that Instagram stories got big, because they stole it from Snapchat.
Yeah.
And now that's kind of transitioning to TikTok, you know, so there's like this natural progression, and everything, there's little skills in it. But quite honestly, man, I maybe only did 4 or 5 live streams. There's people like the guys in Cash for Life who are going to be the first TGIS, Brad Bendis and Will Condrich. They were religious every week. They had a regular Tuesday or Wednesday, like Brad, every Tuesday, 7 o'clock,
Nice.
Check out my live stream. Will, every Wednesday, 7 o'clock. Like, my friend Jeremy Kaywood, who was one of the guests on, he was one of the From Their House to Our Stage features, every Thursday. It's like 8 o'clock, I'm on there, or 9, I can't remember when it was, but
That's great.
the people who are consistent, they're going to win, and maybe not in that short-term quantifiable way, but in the long-term, like there are personalities that I started watching in quarantine that now I'm bought in.
Oh, yeah.
There's like 4 or 5 that I would follow Instagram stories, and they would go live 2-3 times a day. And, this one punk guy and this guy, Homeless Gospel Choir in Pittsburgh, and he's just like making art, and like talking about his day. Yeah, we're going to do this. And he's just like, and a live kind of like, he'll look up and be like, yeah, this is this certain kind of mark. He just answer a question and he'd go back and just kind of talk while he's doing it. Packing merch when he'd make, he released a record.
Oh, yeah?
He did like a record release party on Instagram Live.
That's awesome.
So he put his record on, and then he was boxing them up. He's like, boxing them up. Like, this one's going to Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's coming for you guys, and I'm bought in now. This guy, Derek, like, I'm a fan.
That's awesome.
And so he built his brand in this moment. He earned a new fan. And I didn't, because personally, I had I play original music when I'm at the club cafes and those sort of things. And then when I'm out in the bars, I'm predominantly playing covers.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to force people into something they don't want, and if I am, it's like a Jason Isbell cover, and that's for me. But it's also, I call it a dog whistle. Like, there's one Jason Isbell fan here.
Right, yeah.
Where are you at? And they show themselves, and I'm like, okay, I know who I'm playing for. But I'm like, here's your Beatles, here's your Stones, here's all the stuff,
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting paid for.
Yep.
There to entertain,
True.
try my best to give people what they want, have more to one more drink. That's why the businesses pay a musician. It's like, can I get somebody to stay for one more drink?
Absolutely.
Can I get them to order a dessert?
Yeah.
Right? That's the bottom line. But because I kind of had 2 different hats I would wear, I didn't know how to play to the camera, and I couldn't generate the energy. Like, here, I'm geeked. I'm like, Jordan here, like, I'm good to go. But like, I get at home and I'm front facing, and I don't feel that energy. That's why I had to do an interview show. I have tons to say about songs, but I couldn't muster it from my basement.
Right.
I needed fuel to give back to. Like, I needed I need that give and take. And I haven't been able to find that through Facebook, Instagram Lives.
Yeah. It's real hard. Like, I notice I feed off of other people's energy. Like, and back when we were talking about, you're not competitive because you're trying to like keep up with somebody's schedule. It's motivating. It's like, that's like the content that you put out. Like, I like the stuff that you put out, because when I see that you're putting out new stuff, I'm like, oh man, this guy's awesome. Like, I love what you're doing. So I'm just like, cool. This makes me want to like do something. It makes me want to like, and the same way with like, some big YouTubers and stuff. Like, if I was ever sitting on the couch feeling lazy or something, I'll watch one of their videos. Within 10 minutes, I'm like, okay, upstairs, in the shower, getting dressed, upstairs with cameras.
The world is moving, right? The world is moving, and you can pretend it stops because you stop, but like, somebody's out there working, like Kobe, Jordan, they didn't get to be there because they thought they were the best. They got there because when this person stopped working, they worked for another hour, right? Like whatever it was. I was just watching some old, obviously right now there's no new sports. And so I just watched that Bulls documentary because I grew up in the 90s in Chicago. And so that was the same way the Steelers DNA here. Like, I'm not even a huge sports fan. I love the arts. I love music. But like, some of that 90s stuff when I was still coming and I was a kid, that Bulls documentary, man, I still haven't finished the last 2 episodes because I don't want it to be over.
Yeah.
Right?
What's it called again?
The Last Stand.
The Last Stand.
No, The Last Dance.
Last Dance.
The Last Dance.
My friend Reagan was telling me about that. And because we were just talking about some, like, I do some videos for her company, Adelphi.
Oh, yeah.
And she was like, we're sitting there talking about some, like, video techniques, like timeline type stuff. And she was like, you have to check this out. It is
so well done because they don't do it chronologically.
Yeah.
They kind of tie parallels between the 2 three-peats.
Yep.
So it'd be like the 3rd game and the 2nd year of the three-peat here, and they tie it back to the 3rd game here. And like, I haven't finished it because I don't want it to be done.
Yeah, that's
honestly,
awesome,
like, I have
man.
2 episodes. I'm like,
that's how you know you're watching a good show.
I know. I'm like, I've sat on it for a month. Like, I binged the first 8, and I was like, I have to stop.
Yeah.
Like, it's got to be right, But now I'm like, oh, I love that era of basketball. And I was watching like a 2005 finals game with the Heat, and they were talking about how it was like Jordan and Dwayne Wade. I'm sorry, Shaquille O'Neal and Dwayne Wade, and how they would like both show up at the practice center. It wasn't practice call, but they would just both show up, and that's like, you need to show up.
Yeah.
If you want to be on that level,
Yeah.
the guy we both follow, Gary Vee, says like you can't have a 1% life without putting in a 1% effort.
Absolutely.
Like there are people who would like luck into things.
Sure.
But for the most part, people worked their ears off.
Yeah.
To get for you to know their name.
For sure. Absolutely.
And so when you see somebody up doing stuff, you're like, oh yeah, the world's moving.
I got to jump on that.
Time to get on there.
That's right, man.
Just to keep up and not be left behind.
Oh yeah. Absolutely, dude. Well, this was an awesome conversation, man. I'm really happy that you got to come in. You're a very interesting dude. I would love to have you on here more.
I'd love to be here, man.
We need to talk about some stuff. But so if you got any plugs? You got any your stuff? The Cultural Trust.
So TGIS every Thursday. We're taking the July 2nd off. Take the holiday. But every other week, starting this Thursday, the 18th through the August 20th, we'll have live music at Greensburg Garden Civic Center. You got to get on and pre-register on the Westmoreland Cultural Trust website. Check out the TGIS. If you go on there, you'll find a link for TGIS. You'll see the calendar there. All our rules and regulations, like them or not. If we want to do it, we got to do our best to keep people safe. Follow those CDC and Department of Health guidelines. So, like them or not, that's what we're doing. We or we could do nothing, which I don't think is an option. And so so we'll hear we're not doing enough. We'll hear we're doing too much. We just will. I know when Jessica was on here, you guys talked about parking.
Yep.
There's plenty of parking at Greensburg Garden Civic Center.
There you go.
I'll say that.
Complain about
so
that.
there's something else to complain about, I'm sure, but that's all right because we're just trying. It's a new world right now, and we're gonna do our best to bring value, keep musicians working, keep our staff working, keep our volunteers engaged, keep the community full of music. So
that's important.
That's the goal there. I'm supposed to play down at Millville Music Festival down in August. If that happens, August 8th, I think it is. I'm down in Coriopolis. They're doing like once a month on a Saturday. I'm going to be down there at some point later in the summer. So that's some of my music.
Very awesome, man. How about your Instagram?
Instagram, Adam Fitz Music. Adam Fitz, F-I-T-Z. It's actually short for Fitzgerald, which is my middle name. So if you're looking for me at the Trust, it's Adam Seifert.
Right.
So my name is Adam Fitzgerald Seifert. So Adam Fitz Music. I try to write a haiku a day. I usually pair it with a photo. I post up songs of mine, performances, whatever I think is relevant. Put that on Instagram. Forest Song Video still exists, but is in hibernation right now.
Yeah.
So hopefully once TGI starts rolling and we can kind of be in spaces again.
Don't let it die.
I won't. Unless it might evolve.
Yeah.
It might not die. It might
Evolve
just
is
evolve.
good.
So so that's going on there. I'm on TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I don't know. What did I forget? What are the other platforms?
I don't know.
YouTube occasionally. That was more of a Forest Song thing.
Cool.
So I'm just always trying to make content.
Very good.
I'm in a kind of a down period right now, but it's going to pick back up.
Very good, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate
you, for having
dude.
me, Jordan. Jordan, what you're doing here is great. Thanks for shouting out the community, and it's important work you're doing. Oral tradition.
Thank you very much.